In this video, we'll discuss wound statistics, based on a list of the wounded compiled by a user called Return to Logic. We'll first go over statistical data, then we'll show a few interesting cases. The information on the wounded people contains 215 names. It was compiled from reports in the media, and sites like GoFundMe. Here's a comparison with the gender ratio of the audience and the deceased. Women were 55% of the wounded, very close to the audience ratio. Women were 53% of those wounded by gunfire. At 87%, women were very overrepresented among those wounded not by gunfire, but in the commotion, or while escaping. Overall, 7% of the injuries in the database were injuries other than gunfire. But this number may be inaccurate. Since the data comes from media reports and donation sites, gunfire wounds, which are more dramatic and thus more likely to be reported, may be overrepresented in the data. The actual percent of non-gunshot wounds may have been a bit higher, say 10 to 15%. Here's the distribution of wounds by body parts. Note how the distribution roughly corresponds to how big the parts are as a percentage of a human body. In a past episode, we showed a casualty matrix which estimated wound fatality rates for body parts. With the new data, we can better estimate these rates. Note that the original matrix indicated rates only for direct strikes from the shooter, while the numbers from the new wound database also include multiple hits by one bullet and ricochets. The actual fatality rate for direct hits is probably some number in between. This change does not affect any previous simulations in terms of the gender ratio or angles, only the overall number of casualties. 15 wounded people recall which gunfire burst, in numerical order, caused their wound. We can use this to graph how casualties changed over time, with a visible decrease after the third volley. However, this chart may be inaccurate, because people tend to lose count, that is, among those who remember which volley caused their wound, smaller numbers may be overrepresented. We now know of a second case of someone being hit by gunfire outside the venue, in addition to Melissa Ramirez, known from the CCTV video. The second case is Jenna DeCandio.
We ran till we couldn't run anymore, and we met a fence. And I think it was, from what I can now talk to people, the edge of the airport.
It seemed like we were a good way away from the venue, and then that's where Jenna had fallen down.
And he's like, "Run! You have to run."
And she's like, "Dad, I can't." And she's like, "Dad, I think I've been shot."
That was when she got shot.
That was when she got shot.
That's when she got shot. We were out of the venue, across the road, almost. We were at the airport, the fence to the airport, and she got shot then.
Given these two cases, we are dealing with three possibilities. 1. Paddock was targeting a few individuals in the airport area through a scope. 2. Some shots aimed at the tanks missed and hit people by accident. This seems unlikely, as the spot where Ramirez was shot is far away from the tanks. 3. One automatic round briefly strayed out of the venue. One woman, who says she was working on the stage, said that her friend had been protected by a key in his pocket.
I was actually on the stage.
So your friend that it got hurt, was he with you when it happened?
No, he actually stayed on the other side of the stage to finish the two boxes left. I think he have a shot in his hand and one on his leg. And they actually said that the third one, he had like a steel key in the back, so that protected him from the bullet.
There were two pairs of identical twins among the wounded. One pair is the Baca sisters, both of whom were wounded.
Shooting victim Gianna Baca is visiting a special patient, her identical twin sister. The 17-year-old twins were both shot during the Las Vegas massacre.
The other twin pair are the Clarkson brothers, both cops with the LVMPD. One of them, Casey, on the right, was shot in the neck. By the way, we can check how the number of two twin pairs among several hundred wounded relates to twin rates in general population. Twin rates vary across space and time, but this mostly applies to fraternal births. For identical twins, the rate is more constant, about 1 in 300 pregnancies. Two pairs among several hundred wounded is exactly what we should expect. A man called Bill Robinson was shot through his stomach and buttocks. The bullet lodged in his wallet. His photo of the bullet is the only publicly known image of a bullet from the Las Vegas shooting. The husband of Shannon Rinke, one of the wounded, claims to have seen muzzle flashes coming from Mandalay Bay. Some of the injured people were transported on wheelbarrows, used by food vendors. One of those who helped with the transport, Todd Riley, was then himself wounded multiple times.
Todd and others grabbed the woman and put her in a wheelbarrow used to carry ice and raced to a triage area. Seconds later,
I realized I couldn't stand.
Todd says he had 8 or 9 wounds from bullet fragments from his legs to his stomach.
In cases like the Harvest Festival shooting, people generally view gunshot wounds as more dramatic and dangerous. However, in some cases injuries from trampling or escaping may be more damaging than some gunshot wounds. For example, Bruce Ure, an off-duty Texas cop, was hit by a ricochet in his finger. This was potentially very dangerous, because the bullet may have damaged his fingers, but the actual injury was a small cut.
When I was laying on the ground, the one hit the ground, it shattered about 8 inches away from me. I got just a little cut.
On the other hand, Diane Litzenberg, who was not shot, but got knocked out and trampled, had a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed on the left side, for which she's still in physical therapy. One more example of a dramatic non-gunshot injury is Gabriela Lomallo, who when jumping over a wall, fell on a tree branch which pierced and lodged in her abdomen, one of the very few cases when an object other than a bullet penetrated a body. On sites like GoFundMe, you generally expect bigger donations for people who post their photos, and whose injuries are more intense. But some cases seem strangely disproportionate. For example, Tawny Womack was shot in the chest above the heart and posted a photo, yet she only got $900. Ryan Sarzing, who did not disclose his injury, nor did he post a photo, got $90,000, almost 100 times more. Perhaps the reason is that Ryan is one of the very few Canadian victims. This probably means that Canadian donations were concentrated on only a few people, especially if a big Canadian media outlet featured his fundraising site. We've shown some pretty bad non-gunshot wounds, but the most dramatic injuries were indeed gunshot-related. Rob McIntosh was shot 3 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, all with a single bullet.
It went in me here, it came back out, it went in, and it came out, and it lodged in my arm.
Rachel Shepard was shot 3 times in the chest, with different bullets.
I have lost all of the mobility, especially my left side.
Amazingly, one person, the girlfriend of EMT Kelly Culbertson, survived being shot in the heart.
Tonight she's doing really well. She did have her second surgery for her to repair her humerus, and she's just resting right now.
During the shooting, many men covered women to protect them from bullets. One sad case is that of Bobby and Jenny Parks. Jenny was shot and fell to the ground. Her husband covered her with his body to protect her. Unfortunately, she was shot again despite the protection, the bullet also passing through her husband's arm. Soon thereafter, Jenny passed away.